In this video, I'm going to go through a quick model that I built. It was a model I was asked to build to do a recreation of the opening shot and the opening credits of Thunderbirds, where the big base explodes. And a friend of mine was going to shoot sort of like a recreation of that as part of a training to remind everyone and teach people about the old school high-speed miniatures and pyrotechnics and stuff. Anyway, so I was asked to build something, as I said, pretty quickly. So it didn't have to be super accurate, just so long as it was identifiable as the same thing. So I set about, obviously I looked at the shot and I sort of broke down the different pieces that were needed, because rather than building it as one thing, we wanted to have the flexibility to kind of, stage things accordingly. And I was building this all without any real involvement with the pyrotechnician. I kind of knew that it needed to break away, and I had some rough ideas of what to make it out of. So it's essentially cardboard, foam board, balsa wood, and sort of plastic kit parts for the most part. Anyway, we'll break it down sort of piece by piece. So the main thing that you see is the big tower in the foreground, and that was really simply made out of 1/4-inch balsa sticks, for the upright, and basically I drew off sort of matching the pattern of those girders, and there's a couple of sort of platforms sort of midway up it with fences around it. So I tried to sort of match the basic size and positions of those, and then just painted that all grey and quite dark, because I knew it was going to be in the foreground. Sort of behind that, there's a kind of silvery building with blocks on it, and you don't really see it that clearly, but you do see this kind of chunks of silver. So I found the I think it was a Mr. Kipling mini Battenberg cakes, sort of like you get this nice plastic vac form tray. So I got one of those, painted that silver, stuck it on the side of a shoebox, and big sort of other few little doodads on that. There's another tower that you see in the distance. I didn't want to have another full-size tower and put it all the way back there, because depth of field may have been a problem. So I built it sort of about half the scale of the sort of big foreground one. There's another building that's sort of in cross section that we see it is kind of like octagonal. It sort of looks like a bit of a hangar building. It seems to have some windows in it. So I built something that was an approximation of that out of cardboard, reinforced it with some balsa wood sort of bulkheads, but hot glued it all. I used hot glue for everything on this, because so long as it was really only all going to be seen from this one angle, so nothing really has a backside to it. It's all just 3/4 of the front. So wherever possible, I sort of glued it on the back, but I did want to make sure everything was sort of attached pretty well, so it would either come off in the explosion or would stay put, but it wouldn't be sort of left sort of like half flapping around if it was only sort of glued on partially. That was the thinking anyway. Then there's a big one in the middle that kind of is sort of a reactor or something. It's this kind of silver domed thing. I got hold of I want to say it was a Christmas pudding packet. I don't actually remember what it was. It might have been. Anyway, it was something of that nature, and then I sort of built that up on just a cardboard sort of tube, and put some bits of fencing around that, painted it all silver and black. I tried to make it look as metallic as possible. It's a little bit kind of overdone, but in the original model, it looks like there's some real metal stuff in there. So I wanted to kind of do what I could to represent that, and again, just following the basic shapes. Then there's a sort of a cylinder, almost looks like a water tower. It's kind of standing up on legs with a little sort of triangular bit on top. That one I think is probably pretty close to a lot of the kit parts that they used. There was a model crane that was available in the 60s that they used, and then there's a couple of pieces from the old Airfix girder bridge that I put sort of in that sort of V shape on top. And then the last one that really sort of stands out looks like a kind of elevated control room. It's part of a model that's in Thunderbird 2's hangar. It's sort of the array of equipment and machinery that sits in front of Pod 1 on the pod conveyor. They stuck it in here, and it's an old Volma kit. I think a lot of Volma kits were used. They made a lot of railway accessories and stuff, and you see bits and pieces of silos and signal boxes and different bits and pieces dotted around some of the models in Thunderbirds. But I couldn't find one of those, and I think they were kind of expensive on eBay. So I'd sort of just scratch built out of cardboard and matchsticks and stuff, and sort of just painted it what looked like the right sort of colors. And I think for a shot like this, at the angle you see it from, it's good enough that you sort of say, oh, okay, I recognize that. That's kind of what that is. And again, that was mounted down on a piece of foam core, hot glued down, and then that was all going to be basically nailed down. And then I built a couple of other sort of larger shoe boxes with various sort of bits of paraphernalia. One had a whole bunch of like an egg tray on it, which is a very sort of popular type shape you would see in Thunderbirds, is sort of gold or copper or bronze or sort of steel looking bulbous things that look like high pressurized containers. It's really hard to see all the exact buildings and shapes, and again I just sort of wanted to convey the mass of it, because this was a pretty, you know, cheap and cheerful project, like I said, put together in a few days, and it was all going to be blown up. I did make, just in Photoshop, I made a bunch of checkered patterns, and then made black and white and yellow and black and red and black, sort of, you know, checkered patterns, like that kind of, you know, stuff you see all over the place in Thunderbirds hangars. And I made bits of that just to wrap around any sort of tubes and pipes, or, you know, canisters that I put in here, just to give it that sort of Thunderbirds feel. I got these water pistols from Poundland, from the Pound store. I think you got like 3 for £1. And I took the trigger mechanisms out, and they actually look like pretty good sort of hydraulic pump things. You can see, you know, you see it quickly from one angle. They look, you know, pretty metallic and oily, and they actually look pretty neat, but I can't actually find which building I put them on. They were in there somewhere. Anyway, so these were sort of built, and then I just, you know, sort of, I took a couple of pictures laying it out as it would be, to mimic the classic shot at the end of the Thunderbirds titles, just to kind of show how it would go. It actually turns out it wasn't ever filmed that way, although bits of some of the models do show up in my friend's pilot test for a TV show he was working on called Mob Street, and I'll put a link that you can go take a look at that. In a very 60s Supermarionation-esque in approach, and there's numerous bits of this model that kind of show up in a kind of deserted industrial area that they built a model of for that. Anyway, a really quick video. Just wanted to sort of share this. It's kind of, as is always fun with the Thunderbirds things, is like looking to see, okay, what was scratch built, what was an existing kit, you know, where else does that kit show up, or where it might have been from. It's always fun, and I'm actually going to do a couple of other videos about that shortly. So if you like this, please click the like button. If you've got any comments, please put them below, or any questions. And yeah, thanks very much for watching.